I'm a school teacher. And so I see another way for kids to progress into mindless amounts of learning, learning, but not how much are we really learning if we're using AI to write our paper for us. And the colleges are already seeing that. So I see it from the point of education as it being a valuable tool for students with special needs. And it within the same token, it being detrimental to the way that our society is going to process new learning within the next 20 and 30 years.
Welcome to Creepalachia. We have a wonderful treat for you in the studio today. We even got lyrics, mounted here in the makeshift, what's that called?
Music stand.
Music stand. There we go. Okay, and we have Olivia Perske here, who is an extremely talented musician out of these hills, out of Elkins, right?
That's right. Yeah, born in Clarksburg, living in Elkins now.
Awesome. So tell me about your story first. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Harrison County, north central West Virginia, in Clarksburg, not really within city limits, kind of on the in-between in the neighborhood of Summit Park, where my dad grew up. He built a house next to the house that he grew up in. And his family were Italian and Austrian immigrants. And then my mom's folks also grew up in... at least my mom grew up in Harrison County as well, in Quiet Dell, which is kind of on the other side of the interstate.
Some famous murders there.
I was going to say, yeah, some really interesting history and lots of cool stories coming out of that area in Quiet Dell. My mom's folks, her father's family was stiff-armed by eminent domain.
Oh, no.
Yeah, made to give up lots and lots of farmland to 79 to make way for 79. So they lived right within that ear catch of all those cars all the time. But yeah, both my parents grew up in Harrison County. Mom's folks haven't been in West Virginia since before the American Revolution. And my dad's grandparents coming from Italy. And so very, very different sorts of upbringing that I think leads to me having a very Appalachian story to tell, Yeah,
you're maybe the most Appalachian guest we've had so far. I mean, that's pretty intense. Eminent domains even thrown in. Tell them thank you for your sacrifice. I mean, 79 is needed, but that stuff sucks.
Yeah, my mom grew up with pigs and cows, and that was a much smaller version of what her father grew up with, a much smaller version with what his parents had, and all that. So anyhow, I grew up singing always. I was always a kid who had some sort of song going on in their head. Neither one of my parents were musicians, and so they didn't really get it whenever I was growing up. They mostly just told me to shut up, which if it were me, I probably would have done the same thing regardless of my musician background, because I was one, like I said, it was all the time. My mother-in-law says now that if there was ever a competition where you could win a bunch of money if somebody started singing, she would always make sure that I was the one that was there with her. So, but yeah, my dad's mom sang, and she encouraged me to sing and sang a lot of old 1800s, like Stephen Foster sorts of songs. And so, although I didn't grow up in a family band or anything like that, she was always my musical encourager. And I'd ride the bus and go to her house, and she would ask me right away what were my lessons for the day, which translates to homework, right?
Yeah.
She'd say, "What are your lessons for the day?" And I would tell her I don't have anything, or I'm going to work on it later on. And she always trusted me with that. And then we'd go sit out on the porch swing, and she would then ask me what songs I was learning in school and want me to sing them for her. So both, all my grandmothers were very encouraging of me being a very enthusiastic theater, annoying little kid who always wanted the spotlight, sort of. My siblings say now, I've got 3 siblings, and they all say now when they watch me perform that they just see me as a little kid, because it really was what I was always intending to do with my life in one way or another. So
shoot, yeah. So, and you took a little venture outside of the state, right?
Well, my husband got his master's in Durham, North Carolina.
Okay.
So while I was still finishing, we met at West Virginia Wesleyan, and he's a jazz musician. So he went down to study jazz in Durham, North Carolina, and I lived there for a bit and had plans upon graduating to go out of state to study opera, to study classical singing performance at the master's degree level. But I graduated in 2020, and so my whole life changed in a very dramatic, super dramatic way at the time. It was one of those woe is me sort of moments, not getting to say goodbye to my friends and my professors, and then also being like, yeah, and your plan for your life is also not going to happen either. So
because of the pandemic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't going to go move to a city that costs way too much money to live in if I wasn't actually going to get to have the singing opportunity that I was moving there for. So,
sure, yeah.
Instead, I had been studying music ed and decided to get a teaching job with the guy who I student taught with, who was based out of Elkins, and he and his wife were both approaching retirement age and made the decision to withdraw out of the school just for the sake of staying healthy because they didn't know what was coming. So he said, if you want the job, I will recommend you to the admin. And, I did an interview and the rest was history. And I've been there for 5 years now and I really enjoy my teaching job. Public school music is so important.
Mm-hmm.
It's all I got as a kid. My parents didn't have money to put me in lessons or anything like that. And so all the musical opportunity that I got was either through public school teaching or because I grew up in the town that hosts the West Virginia Italian Heritage Festival. And so I got to sing a little bit in an Italian kids choir where you had to provide proof of heritage,
right,
which is so funny. But you had to provide proof of Italian heritage and then you can sing in the choir. And so I grew up going to that festival every year. And that was those were the only sorts of opportunities that I had to do anything extra or special musically until I was in 4th grade when I started doing the All-State Children's Chorus, which I now take students to as a part of the music teacher conference that happens every year. And that's always that happens at the beginning of March. So that just finished. And it's always a very big full circle moment for me. I'm always weeping when the kids are on the stage singing because I'm like, I could have left, I could have left the state in search of opportunity and I didn't. And now I get to see these kids have that same super transformative performing moment that I had.
Such a blessing for you to have stayed here. How old are the kids that you...
I teach kindergarten through 5th grade.
That's so important.
Yeah, I didn't ever intend to teach elementary school. I always thought if I was going to end up in the schools that I would be teaching secondary choir, preferably high school choir, because I grew up doing show choir, and show choir is kind of a big deal in West Virginia for whatever reason. I don't know exactly how it got here, but especially Southern West Virginia, it's a big deal. So,
and what's show choir?
Show choir is where you take pop or other commercial music and you make it into some sort of a storytelling theater show.
Okay.
So it's dancing and singing at the same time. And that's actually brings me to another funny thing, which is that I didn't know how much I loved to dance because I was just always doing it in theater and in show choir until we moved to Elkins for that. My husband had been in a job teaching music for a year longer than me, but we had been commuting from Buchanan while I finished my schooling. And so upon moving to Elkins, of course, it was pandemic time, 2021, January. And so music stuff was not really open yet. Dancing stuff was not really open yet. But I believe it was that summer that I went to my first camp at Augusta. And if not, it was a whole year. But I'm talking about the Augusta Heritage Center, which is based out of Elkins and has been doing folk and traditional music programming from around the world and within Appalachia since the 1970s. So about 50 years if a little bit over 50 years of existence now. And I asked people at school, I've always wanted to have a children's choir because it meant so much to me as a kid. And I didn't see anything like that happening in either Buchanan or in Elkins. And so I'm one of those people that which I also think is a very Appalachian quality of mine, if I don't see it happening, I'm going to make it happen. And so I asked some of my colleagues at school and they said, you need to meet the folks at Augusta. That's who you should sponsor the choir through. So we started the children's choir after I went to a summer of Augusta. Or if my timeline's wrong, I had participated in their newly launched adult choir program, adult community choir program. And so I saw what they were about and instantly got along with them super well. So now I run a children's choir with them called the Voices of Augusta that I wrote a little theme song for in the hopes that one of these days their kids are going to be in the choir and they can all sing it at the end of every concert and it'd be a special sort of thing. And then I also run a community sing with Augusta with my buddy Connie, and the two of us lead labor songs, coal songs, folks, anything from the folk diaspora, general folk.
Sure,
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what's it like for you to be in such an important position in my, for me, the arts are so important in a kid's life, and we live in a state where you're also first on the chopping block when it comes to funding. So how do you stay positive?
I mean, like I said, I never intended to teach elementary school, and a lot of that was just because I'm not a super kids person. Like, I love kids, but I just didn't know how much they could do.
Mm-hmm.
And once I saw my predecessor teaching them to read music and doing these things that I went to college not knowing how to do, I was like, whoa, I can really change my life through teaching them and also be a part of their lives. And my husband and I are teetering back and forth on whether or not having kids of our own is something that we want to do. And a lot of that is the political climate of the world that we live in. And teaching is always right in the crux of that. So we know the importance of public schooling. We know the importance of the arts. We know that nothing teaches a kid like the arts do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just brain magic. It uses both sides of the brain in a way that nothing else does. So when you read on one side of your brain, and whenever you do math and those sorts of things, you do it on the other side of your brain, which is why we get the terms left-brained and right-brained people.
Mm-hmm.
But music fires the synapses across both sides. And so it is magic for memory. It's magic for self-confidence. It's magic for building community in a way that in my opinion, we were always supposed to make music and dance as people. And if kids aren't learning that from the start, it's becoming less and less prevalent in our overall national culture to be in community in those sorts of ways, which is another reason why I love West Virginia so much, because we're kind of this hidden secret in a lot of ways about how the cultures of these little towns are still keeping the dances alive and the community parts of it alive. But I consider it a huge responsibility because I meet them when they're 4 or 5 years old,
mm-hmm.
and I send them off when they're 11.
Sure.
And so I get all of those formative years to hopefully teach them to appreciate music, but also to teach them that we're better when we're together, that they can develop healthy coping mechanisms through music, that they can connect with people they never thought that they were going to connect with through music. All of the things that music teaches indirectly are the most important things about music.
Yeah, it's the only language that is instantly universal and understood.
Absolutely.
To me. I mean, no matter if you can understand the lyrics or not, just hearing the tones and how things are structured, everyone across the world can have a similar feeling typically when they hear it.
And through this work that I've done with Augusta, I've started going to these different fiddle and dance camps around the country. And the thing that I learn is you and I can grow up in a completely different environment, in a completely different scenario, influenced by completely different things musically, and come together. And it might take us a song or two to kind of learn how to communicate. But once we do, a lot of the times the people that I have the best jamming experiences with are not people that come from Appalachia. And that's not saying anything about us, but it's because you have to really reach your ears out to that person when you're coming from a different musical environment to be able to make and connect that music together. And I've seen lots of parallels with the way that music functioned in Appalachia for a long time, especially in terms of creating a form of liberation for the people that lived here. That it's operated that same way for people in other parts of the country, just in different ways. And if you always look at music through the lens of connection, you don't need, like you said, you don't need to be able to even understand the same words to be able to make a connection in that way.
Yeah. And you mentioned something in passing. You said, the current political environment, we're just not sure. Here's the thing. Screw politics. We need good parents out there.
I agree.
It's totally y'all's business, but
yeah,
I'm just saying, don't let some idiots convince you not to do that. But I know my kid in my life, her creative brain is starting to spin, and we're starting to collaborate now, and it's it's just something that you'll understand when it's there.
Sure.
It's just so next level of like a blessing. Now, granted, everyone's situation is different, and for us, we were like, we're just having one kid because we can raise one, we can take care of one, and two kind of felt overwhelming to us.
And you can take her anywhere with you,
Yeah. And now you hear the things, you'll always have people offering their advice of like, well, they can't be alone when they're older. I'm like, listen, this kid's not going to be alone.
Yeah.
She can run a room, and like, she has a lot of friends that are like sisters. So,
well, that's so funny that you say that, because one of the things that is the crux of that is that I can't just have one, because my siblings are the best part of my family.
Right. Yeah.
We're all so close, and we're all, my older sister's 5 years older, my younger sister's 5 years younger, my brother's 8 years younger. And so we all were always in different parts of our lives. And I was thankful not to have been the first one, because I got to see my sister make a lot of mistakes that I didn't have to make.
Right.
My younger sister and younger brother got to see the same thing from me, but we always had somebody to reach out to and ask things to that weren't just our parents, And so it's funny, because I'm not going to leave my kid without a sibling, because that was the best part of my growing up.
Sure. Yeah. No, yeah. And I love my brother too. And to be fair, I made all the mistakes. He's an older brother. Like, he didn't make any, he didn't really make any mistakes. So I had to take up that responsibility. But yeah, everyone's different, and siblings are in general a very special thing to have, for sure.
We all look so much alike, to the point where people always want to know if we're, especially my younger sister and I, if we're twins, or And she's 5 years younger than me, so she hates it.
Oh, nice.
Like, she's an old lady. What do you mean? I'm only,
That's great.
But people tell us we look more alike than any other group of siblings that they've ever met, which I think is funny, because I think we look like our own individual mixes of our grandparents, and like we've all got those different kind of traits. But my younger two siblings and I sing together, and I was like I said, my grandmother was the singer, in terms of she was the only one making music on either side of the family, and her father was an itinerant coal miner that had a banjo, and so she got it honest. But then there was, my dad will sing, but he likes classic rock and stuff like that, so it's not really singing music as much as it is, like singing while you're washing the car, so that kind of stuff. But I'm very, very thankful that now my older sister will join in with us too, because that was always she was in the band and everything, but she always felt like she didn't have a good voice. And now all four of us, regardless of how serious or unserious we're being, we always end up singing something when we're together.
I'm curious. So my wife's, she's part Italian. They got Italian history. And when we first got together, she was like, Italian grandmas can cook and they throw things. Those are the two things you need to know. And I was like, okay. Got it. And then I met my mother-in-law, and I understood instantly, like, okay, this is a new thing.
Right.
So Italian masons built the walls in Welch. I don't know if you knew that.
Gotcha. No, I did not.
But yeah, so
they definitely built the railroad.
Yeah.
And Irish and Italian immigrants definitely built the railroad, and they're the reason we have pepperoni rolls. Those Italian American coal miners in Marian County.
Yep. Did your family get their name changed when they came
They
home?
didn't change the name, but they Americanized the pronunciation. So,
okay.
And actually, that's not true. The name was changed somewhere. So it was originally Inzania in Sonya. And now when people say it, it's Insani, which we've always Americanized to Insana, like banana. In fact, when I meet people... from growing up, I still say that my last name is Insana, like banana, even though that's my maiden name now, and I have a new name. And I always thought I was going to marry this guy, and I was going to finally have a name nobody struggled to say. But now everybody always asks me about the pronunciation of my married name, which is Perske, Perske. So I went from one name that had a vowel that was wrong on the end to another name that had a vowel that was
perfect,
a little bit weird at the end too. But yeah, mostly it was a change in the pronunciation, and my dad's family said, you are not to speak the language. We are here to assimilate to the culture. So there was no Italian speaking in the house. which led to some very broken English and some funny mishaps. My dad's grandmother really liked professional wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
It's just things like that you don't associate. But she was they were trying to be Americans. They wanted to be American, which is the reason that they came here in the first place.
Yeah, well, my grandfather-in-law, I guess you call it, he's passed away now, the best dude, but he had a twin, and they were Patsies, but they had their name changed, and I can't remember what the name was when all of them came over, but it ended up being Patsy, and they all called him Mr. Patches.
Oh, okay.
Because they couldn't really say that, But anyway, it was... I love hearing about all that stuff. I mean, it's sad in a way because it's like they didn't lose their heritage, but how important your name would be if you come over and you're like, well, okay, I'll do whatever you say, just to make money.
Yeah, I'm letting you advise me, even though I don't really know you, to say you're gonna make more money if you have a different name or whatever it may be, right away. From my folks came through Ellis Island. So right away, I'm sure it was when that all went down. And the other frustrating part of it was that the family was big, and there were cousins that lived in county that I didn't really know.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that everybody that had my name was obviously a member of my family in some way, because there were a bunch of brothers who, all came over to work in the mines and to work on the railroad. So what was frustrating for me was people would say, oh, I know that guy, and he says his name's Insani. And I'd be like, okay, you're right. We're related, but he's telling you his name wrong. So, or he's just not correcting you.
Sure, yeah.
Right, he's not trying to be a jerk every time
nice.
you say his name right. But I am, I'm an Appalachian woman, dang it, and I'm going to tell you what my name is, and you better call me by my name,
Right.
Yeah. So that was always frustrating for me as a young woman, because I felt like people felt like I was being difficult. Whenever, in reality, I was just trying to get you to say my name right. And so there are certain things like that I feel come more from my mom's side, where it's like, you should, if somebody is asking you to do something, you should go to the full extent to do that thing for them,
Heck yeah.
Whereas my dad's family was like, call me whatever you want,
Right.
It doesn't really matter too much.
A little bit of both of that is good. Name's real important to me because of that, but also my wife's name is Jenna, but it's spelled Jina, so no one ever gets it right. So, but I mean, at the same time, I kind of don't blame him. It's kind of her dad's fault, but
right.
Because he spelled it on the birth certificate. But anyway, it is what it is. So we got a guitar here.
Yeah.
What is the first song that you want to lay out for people?
Ooh, cool. I want to play you all a song that I learned from Gene Ritchie, but from my very limited research of it, seems like it is a much, much older song by the title The Butcher Boy. And it follows a young woman who, young enough to be living in her parents' home still. So probably likely 14, 15, 16. Think about how young people were whenever they got married back in the day, who has fallen in love with this man who we don't know how old he is. He very well could be, 30 some years old. We don't know. Who's working either in the railroad or in the mines. The story is different because I'm pretty sure it's one of these English ballads that's come across the ocean. And so the main gist of the story, though, is that he decides that he's going to go for work and she can't deal with the grief of that. And you'll find out what happens after that. But I learned it from the singing of Gene Ritchie and Doc Watson. And it's called, the title that they use is Go Dig My Grave.
Awesome. I'll get you reverbed up here and then we'll be ready to go. You swing that mic towards you a little bit.
I was going to say I'm going to tune my guitar because
go right ahead.
It takes a second, but it's going to be better off if it sounds good.
Go right ahead. Take your time. The audience loves being in the moment, so it's like, that's how you tune a guitar. Okay. Got it.
Yeah, I started playing guitar 3.5 years ago, maybe now.
Mm-hmm.
Once I moved to Elkins and wanted to be a part of the music culture of this new place I was living, which is a very string band heavy place. I've always wanted to play guitar, and the music that I listened to always sounded, always had guitar as a part of the accompaniment and sounded more folky in that sort of way.
Sure.
But I was very stubborn, and like I said, did not have anybody that could kind of lead the way for me. So it took me wanting to be a part of a community of musicians to actually pick up a guitar. And here it is. So
You all right?
this is Go Dig My Grave. Go dig my grave, both wide and deep. Place a marble stone at my head and feet, and on my breast a snow white dove, to tell this world that I died for love. Oh Lordy, Lord, oh Lordy me. Oh Lord, oh Lordy me. She went upstairs for to make her bed, and not one word to her mama said. Her mama, she went upstairs too, saying, daughter, oh daughter, what troubles you? Oh mama dear, I cannot tell. That railroad boy that I loved so well, he courted me my life away, and now with me he will not stay. Oh Lordy, Lord, oh Lordy me. Oh Lord, oh Lord, oh Lordy me. Her papa, he came home from work, saying, where's my daughter? She seemed so hurt. He went upstairs for to give her hope, and he found her hanging by a rope. Oh Lordy, Lord, oh Lordy me. Oh Lord, oh Lordy me. He got his knife for to cut her down, and in her bosom these words he found. Go dig my grave, both wide and deep. Place a marble stone at my head and feet, and on my breast a snow white dove, to tell this world I died for love.
That is I could listen to that for 7 days straight.
Well, that song has 1 million verses, so you probably did just now.
Just so good.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so brutal.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of these songs that have a similar storyline where the young girl in the story just can't handle whatever's happened and ends up deciding to kill herself. We hear a similar story happen with men, but oftentimes it's because he got her pregnant and he can't afford to take care of a child or whatever it is. Like we hear these storylines of people who can't handle whatever it is that they're going on in their lives, and so they end up making that awful choice.
Sure, yeah.
And a lot of them in their youth, thinking Romeo and Juliet, those folks were not very old at all. And that's definitely a trope of traditional music is this really awful thing has happened to me and I can't handle it. So
would that, it's not a murder, but would that be considered a murder ballad? Or
sure. I don't know why not. Yeah, I talked to you a little bit about this earlier. Ballad in traditional music speak is not like ballad when we think of jazz music, slow. Oftentimes has a yearning quality. That's what we think in terms of commercial music nowadays when we hear the word ballad. Ballad in traditional music refers to a story that is being told verse by verse, that the listener has to listen to the end to truly understand what's happened and what's gone on. And so a lot of these ballads came from England, Scotland, and Ireland. And through their travel with people that immigrated to the United States into Appalachia, there are versions that are a Scottish version of the song, an Irish version of the song, an English version of the song at their root, but also have these major differences and variation in terms of, the melody's different or the words are just a little bit different. Maybe she didn't hang herself. Maybe she slit her wrist, or whatever it may be. The version of it is somewhat different. But thinking about how old this song is, hanging yourself is probably the most sure way to kill yourself at this time, and so a lot of them end up with somebody hanging themselves or somebody getting hung for murdering someone. But I would definitely say that this trope is a super big theme in murder ballads.
Another thing too, like, why did these old songs have like 1,000 verses? Is it because people added verses over the years?
Sure. Or think about lack of entertainment at the time.
Oh, yeah.
So instead of watching a movie, they'd gather around and they'd sing songs that have 9 verses. And
it's so much fun. Well, I love movies, but like, it sounds like the early 1900s version of a Facebook feed. It's like, but way more productive.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing about it is that people were passing down stories that had shock factor in the same way that we do it now with the way that we market things on social media. It might be a video has very, very good intentions, but the title of it is something that catches people's attention, so then they'll actually watch it, oftentimes more toward the negative than the positive. And it's the same idea with these ballads that come from thousands and thousands of years ago. Oh, we want to hear the story of what happened to little Susie or whatever. And somebody wrote it at the time, normally based on a true life event, but they were being told after the fact because they're entertaining.
Sure.
And because they have that shock factor where people will remember what happened in the story and then tell it to somebody else.
Yeah. See, I'm trying to find the teeter to the line of that, of like get them interested to listen, but also I don't want to be negative. So I think it's finding people that have been told negative things for so long and they actually find it refreshing to just hear and be entertained by something that doesn't make fun of them. If that makes sense.
Oh, definitely. Because, we're used to being the brunt of the joke in Appalachia.
Sure.
So, I like the stuff that you're doing. I wasn't trying to take a dig. I'm just saying that's what we do now, and it's because there is something innately human about us wanting to know, okay, we know what we know what the end result is, but how did we get here? How did this all transpire?
Sure. And I still mess up. Like, I'll make a story that I probably shouldn't have, and then I'll get all these messages from a family it affected, and I'm like, oh man, these, like, overwhelmingly supported and loved, but this family hates my guts. So I try to keep that from happening anymore, and I try to fix the situation, but sometimes it's not, that's kind of what I asked for. Sometimes it's not possible to be fixed. But yeah, I could totally see me as figuring out how to do some murder ballads back in the day.
Yeah. Or sure. Knowing who the stewards of the music were and just befriending them in a way where you're like, I want to be invited to the moonshine around the fire sing-along that happens every Friday night or whatever,
Doesn't that sound awesome?
It does sound awesome. And really, nowadays, those sort of spontaneous weekly get-together things still happen in Elkins.
Yeah.
In a way that you don't see in a lot of small town America. Well, at least from my perspective, I didn't grow up around it. And so everything feels new, even though some parts of it very well could be, a part of the culture of the, however.
Sure.
It's just all new to me. So I'm like a little kid and I'm like, I'm going to soak as much of this up as I can.
Yeah.
So I know one lady who was my neighbor when we first moved to Elkins, and she gets all of her girlfriends together for Wild Women Wednesdays. Every Wednesday, they just sit around and tell stories, and they're all in their 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been doing it for 40 some years, and getting together every Wednesday to catch up and drink wine and hang out. And
see, I met a group. It was at Pembroke at Mountain Lake Lodge, and they were getting drunk on wine at the bar, and they had this charcuterie board, and they're like 80. I don't know. They may have been younger, but having so much fun. So I just went up and talked to them. We just sat there and talked for like 20 minutes.
Yeah. The funny story of how I met my neighbor is that she had an Italian last name. And so we had gone to visit some friends in Pittsburgh. Almost all of our music friends moved to Pittsburgh. It's that story where like they're from here. They can't make it here. They don't even try to make it here musically. Yeah. And so they gravitate to the Paris of Appalachia, as some people call it, up in Pittsburgh. And they're able to make livings there.
You know what Mountaineers say? I mean, I won't do that. I won't disrespect your people. But anyway, but yeah. Some people say that, not Mountaineer fans. But yeah, go ahead.
I'm not talking about the sports. I was one of those kids that did both. I played on the sports teams and I was in the arts,
Sure,
so I really don't want to be like, I'm not talking about sports because it's not like that. But they all moved up there and they're making it work for themselves up there. And they told me about this Italian bakery that I needed to stop by. So my eyes were way too big for my stomach, and right. I got a sheet pan box full of just miscellaneous little things. Sure. And I took them over to her house, and it was one day where she had people over, but everybody had kind of left. And so I was like, okay, they're probably still awake, even though it's 7:00 or so, whatever. I'll just drop off some stuff over there because I know she'll like it, even though we hadn't really had a real conversation yet, just waving. And that was 7:00, and my husband came over at 11 and said, just want to make sure you don't have my wife chained up in the basement. She came over to drop off some baked goods, and I haven't seen her for 4 hours, but it's just because we just got to talking and had such a good time. And that's one of the things that traditional music has really brought to the forefront for me, is how important it is to talk to people that are not of your generation and learn from them and hear their stories and see what's similar about, even though everything feels so different, there's bound to be something similar about y'all.
Oh yeah, there's way more we have in common no matter what happens. Now,
right.
Some people are more vocal than others, and you're like, whoa, I have nothing in common with that person, but I guarantee anyone almost you could sit down
right
and find commonality.
Right.
So, although Elkins, y'all do like arresting people for the marijuana, we gotta calm down, Randolph County, and we do have a couple people go missing in that area every now and then. But that's unfortunately across West Virginia. But I love Elkins.
Elkins, in my opinion, the police department just doesn't have enough to do, and so they spend a lot of time on things that are not.
Oh, there important. You go.
Yeah. But
no, my dude, I bailed a guy out from there. He got and he had a medical card, and he had, I guess, too much on him. And thankfully, they lowered the felony, I believe, last I heard. So I appreciate that. Yeah. But it is what it is. We're making progress. We got the medical card now. Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yep. There are definitely it's one of those things with the industry of anything coming into West Virginia. You're like, how much is this actually going to go back into the state? Any of this money,
Yeah.
I always wonder about that kind of stuff. Because
eminent domain. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay.
Eminent domain may come in handy too. I don't think it will for data centers, but you never know. I don't know.
I really surely hope so.
I hope that we protect our land and we're not given peanuts and told to deal with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, our friends in Wyoming County don't have clean water, so
sure,
we're living in a third world country in some of our counties, and
yeah, Wyoming, McDowell,
exactly,
Mingo. I mean, all of them.
Yep.
All the coal towns.
The southern coal field country, doesn't have clean water, and what do you guys think? Sorry, you got me on AI.
Let's do it.
What do you guys think is going to happen to all of our fresh water? When you use it to cool down a data center, that water does not go back into the water cycle, right? It evaporates, but it evaporates connected to what kind of chemicals, right? Or whatever. And I feel like data and AI is the new equivalent of what coal.
It's the extraction industry. It's just our land space.
Yeah.
Well, here and I'm not going to act like I don't know a lot of the specific ins and outs. Here's what I do know, that unless we change the way we're technologically progressing, we're going to need them to some capacity. Do we need as many as we're trying to put in? Probably not. But I do not think that we have the standards in place to deal with what we're doing right now. I think that this whole tax incentive deal is completely disastrous for these counties.
Yeah.
And the way it's structured, if a county gives up their land, they should get all the tax benefit from it.
Agreed.
And it should go to roads, should go to bridges,
infrastructure,
fix their freaking water.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're doing.
Yeah.
So,
I personally prescribe to there's no ethical use of AI within my own life. I don't use AI at all. I understand why some people would within their industries and all that, but working in the schools, I see it from a couple different perspectives. One, I'm a school teacher, and so I see another way for kids to progress into mindless amounts of learning. Learning, but not how much are we really learning if we're using AI to write our paper for us. And the colleges are already seeing that. So I see it from the point of education as it being a valuable tool for students with special needs, and it within the same token, it being detrimental to the way that our society is going to process new learning within the next 20 and 30 years. The other perspective that I see it is from a non-trusting West Virginian, knowing what coal has up and left a lot of our communities with nowadays. And I just think, down the road here, how much damage are these data centers going to do to our natural resources? And then they find another piece of land somewhere else, maybe in Kentucky and not in West Virginia, but still in Appalachia, where nobody's going to see it and have to look at it except for the people that live there.
Sure.
Then what's it going to be like in 50 years when that thing is non-functional?
It'll be a relic. Right. Someone will be going in it, filming and making a TikTok. Yeah,
or turning it into, what is it, like the Blair Witch Trials?
Sure, yeah.
Going into there. And
this will be a good conversation. And I'm glad that it took this tangent, because I can kind of play the other side, because I use AI for research, but I have core values that the way I do it, like final copy will not be written by AI. Like, I'll fact check everything. I'll do all these different things.
Yeah.
But there's so many places that aren't doing that.
Yeah.
Not saying I'm perfect, but I'll also make, a funny joke of me riding a donkey and showing my, I have this whole series. But at the same time, I think that it's not overall. There's been so many Facebook groups and so many things pop up that, like, literally they'll have. I found a video is talking about West Virginia, and they have AI podcast hosts now that are saying, like, welcome to Braxton County, where we have this and that, and everything on it is literally AI, but hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, all the way through the whole process.
People are in the comments just like in it, and they'll be every so often like, "Oh, this is AI slop, this and that, yada yada yada." So I think we're not ready for it.
Yeah, we're not. And the arts are not ready for it.
No. Sora, have you looked into Sora, the music generator? It is.
No, I have no.
Insane.
I'm so far away from that stuff, JD. I can't even I choose to stay unaware about a lot of things.
Well, it's Suno I was thinking of. Sora is the video editor that ChatGPT came out with.
I have seen videos of artists on Instagram that have said that their producer, without their knowing consent, put their voice into an AI system that is now going to take elements of their voice that they've trained to work on, and it's their identity. If something happened to my voice, it would be an issue of identity, and not an issue of superficial value. But the same thing's happening with artists. If you make a flyer with AI, I will never go. That immediately tells me that I'm not
right.
I am not interested in going to your event.
You can tell.
Right. Oh yeah. Oh, it's the same stuff over and over. You know, like it has a look about it. It has an uncanny valley, which is a reference I think from the 90s or early 2000s, where it doesn't look human. It doesn't look human. And so with that being said, I personally am a little bit of a, how do I want to say this on the podcast?
Say it.
I'm a little bit of I'm not a communist. I'm not, I definitely know that communism has done a lot of bad things, but I do prescribe to a more socialist ideology in terms of, if we don't take care of each other, the government will not. Right. And so we have to build these communities within themselves. And I'm already seeing how AI is stepping into some of these community programs and like cutting it off at the knees and saying, oh, we can make our flyers with this. What about your artist friend that lives in town? Like, it's going to be handmade looking, but to me, that has way more value to it than something that was generated by a computer, And
sure,
so,
yeah.
I lean definitely on the more liberal area of the spectrum in terms of like, I just know that the government's not going to take care of us, and so we have to take care of each other.
But everyone really, that's kind of a across the spectrum thing. Like, everyone knows that.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, listen, we have, of course, we don't do politics on the show, but we have people of all type of beliefs. And I think this is what's important, is someone that listened to this podcast and they heard the beautiful sounds and the story and the background and your Italian immigrants, and then hearing that maybe you say something that you believe in that they don't.
Right.
I think it helps.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bridge. It helps build the bridge. And I think my thing with AI is like, I enjoy it when it's used and
it's being used.
It's used.
Yeah. You don't want to use it and then falsify that somebody else made it.
And it's going to get to that point where it's indindistinguishable from reality.
Oh yeah, definitely. Soon.
And we're close there now. There's stuff that fool people all the time.
Yeah, and my end to this rant is that I believe that our use of AI on a person-by-person basis normalizes the way that it's going to be used by military governments in order to surveil people and to cause major harm, because computers don't think about what the
let's go I got another one if you want to put the tinfoil hat.
Don't think about what the side effects of what they do is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And humans have the ability to do that, to where we're like, I don't want to participate in something that makes this idea that billionaires are using for their own personal interests okay. And so I take that sort of personal responsibility to not do that thing, because I don't want AI to be normal, in the way that it already is. Like I said, there are farmers markets in my local area and things like that are using AI flyers, and I will not be attending those things anymore, and so it's a very staunch way of sitting on that line, and people can say what they want to say about it, but, that's just the way that I approach it in my personal life. And I really don't want to see West Virginia full of data centers and it ruin our natural resources, like, other industries that have come in and taken and then left.
Yeah. It's great. And people are eating while they're here, and we didn't think about 50 years from now.
Yeah.
It's a huge, huge issue. And I think the only, like, if you're truly against it, that would be the only way, is literally changing your technological, like changing the path of how you deal with the world.
Right.
Yeah. Because everything we do now, essentially every transaction, every browse, everything is using it.
I know.
And it's like literally the only way to take a stand is not to use it at all. Mm-hmm. So I applaud that. And that's why America is so great, is because we're allowed to do these things, and we need to protect that ability to do those things.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah. All right. There you go, y'all. Data Center 101. I'm going to have I want to get really involved with it and figure out the ins and outs of the process. I just haven't had the time to do it. And I
encourage everybody that's listening to do that, to really, truly read about it from, not just from the source that you normally get your news from, but read about it from a couple different sources about how the process works and how, for me personally, I think the most important thing to look into it is how it's going to affect our freshwater supply.
Sure.
Because water is a natural resource that cannot be created. And so if it's going to be used in a way that is going to deplete our natural water supply, we all need to know and speak up against it, because that's the only way that anything gets done about anything.
Here's how to fix it. Use all the brown water coming out of Gary. You know? That was a dumb joke.
No, but I've thought the same thing. Use if it's not a big deal, use contaminated water.
I know, right?
Yeah. We've got plenty of it in those counties in the southern coal fields.
I hope to fix it one day. But goodness gracious. Well, there you go, y'all. So next song, what are we gonna line up here?
I'm gonna do a Gillian Welch song, which, if you guys aren't familiar with Gillian Welch, she's the one who wrote the soundtrack for Brother, Where Art Thou?
Which is a
brother,
staple.
Where Art Thou? Yeah.
Was it made by the Coen brothers?
I believe so.
I think.
Don't quote me on that. I'm very much coming into traditional music on the tail end of, as compared to a lot of people who grew up in it. But she is a songwriter that writes in the style of these old songs. And so the song sounds like it's from the same era as the one that I just did, but it was written like in the 80s.
Sure, yeah.
Which is really, really cool.
Well, I'm excited. I know that movie was like a religion to people in the coal mines. That movie was everything.
Okay, yeah, and I maybe should have done a trigger warning before my last one too, but this does have some super dark imagery in it, and also addresses sexual assault. So if that's something that makes you queasy, me too, and I know why these stories need to be told, because women need to support other women in that sort of way.
Heck yeah, we all need to support each other for sure. Let's go.
Caleb Meyer, he lived alone in them hollering pines, and he made a little whiskey for himself to help him pass the time. Down one evening, the back of my house, Caleb come around, and he called my name till I went out with no one else around. Caleb Meyer, your ghost is gone to wear them rattling chains, and when I go to sleep at night, don't you call my name. Where's your husband, Nellie Kane? Where's your darling gone? Did he go on down the mountainside and leave you all alone? Yes, my husband's gone to Bowling Green to do some business there. Then Caleb threw that bottle down and grabbed me by my hair. Caleb Meyer, he lived alone in them hollering pines, and he made a little whiskey for himself to help him pass the time. He threw me in the needle bed, across my dress he lay. Then he pinned my hands above my head, and I began to pray. I cried, my God, I am your child, send your angels down. Then feeling with my fingertips the bottleneck I found. Caleb Meyer, your ghost is gone to wear them rattling chains, and when I go to sleep at night, don't you call my my name. I drew that glass across his neck, fine as any blade. Then I felt his blood pour hot and fast around me where I lay. I drew that glass across his neck, fine as any blade. Then I felt his blood pour hot and fast around me where I lay. Caleb Meyer, your ghost is gone to wear them rattling chains. And when I go to sleep at night, don't you call my name. Caleb Meyer, your ghost is gone to wear them rattling chains. But when I go to sleep at night, don't you call my name.
Well, I think it's official. Caleb can eat
Yeah.
Yeah.
Caleb sucks.
Caleb sucks.
Yep.
How old is that song?
I think from the 80s.
From the 80s.
But written like one of those old songs. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Thanks. Yeah, I learned that from a friend, Shay, who was previously based out of Florida and now living in New Orleans. And we were having one of those chats where I was like, can you sing me a song that is going to stick with me? Like, can you sing me one that I'm going to be singing here in 3 days when I'm coming back home, you know?
Right.
And she sang me that one. And it was the perfect choice because that was last April. And I've been thinking about this song ever since. And, you know.
That was good.
The resiliency of some people to fight back, you know, whether it's through in the moment or after the fact, to prosecute people and to tell their stories. And yeah.
Heck yeah. It's a big, important part of this show is giving domestic violence victims a place to come and share their story and, you know, and even help bust some criminals.
Yeah.
Hopefully, if we can.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an unfortunate thing that just seems to never go away.
No, it happens everywhere in every culture.
Yeah.
People taking advantage of each other in many, many different ways. And somehow there's still this crazy stigma when people come out and talk about it, you know, that we blame victims and tell them that, you know, it's something that they could have done to prevent it. And that's what we have to say to them a lot of the times. And yeah, I appreciate you providing an avenue for people to tell their stories and hopefully to get rid of some of that stigma. So then people will know when people get domestically or sexually abused, it's people they know, oftentimes 9 times out of 10 that happens to. And so it's hard enough for you to go through this character downfall of somebody that you know and respect, let alone to tell somebody about it and then them say, like, I don't believe what you said. You know, I know that guy. I don't believe what you said.
Sure.
And so.
And there's a stigma too with men, like men get abused and
don't tell anybody.
Yeah, because we think like it's a whole
power dynamic thing.
Exactly.
How can it happen to a man? Yeah,
exactly.
Happens to a lot of men. It happens to 1 in 5 women, and I don't know what the statistics.
I'm sure it's lower for men, but then again, I don't know. But I'm sure it's lower.
I was going to say, but for it to happen to 1 in 5 women, that means that there's enough people telling that it's happening to them for that data to be collected. And I don't know how many men ever tell anybody what happened to them.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. This, I made a post about this, you know, Mom Talk, you know, the Taylor Frankie lady from the Mormon Wives show. Okay. So they released this video and she's like throwing all these bar stools and all these different things. And listen, I get the guy is not a good person according to the show and what they
She the lady that was supposed to be the Bachelorette?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the lady. And then they canceled and there was a big string of people that was saying, well, no, that was a reactive abuse situation. And I'm like, well, I understand like a self-defense thing, but like this was like
right. Being perpetrated against the man.
Yeah. She was like punching him and kicking him. And he did video it to release it. And he had a strategic release for it. And I'm not saying he's a good dude. He doesn't seem to be. But she picked up like 3 bar stools, one hit her kid. Like, I'm not going to excuse that.
Right.
Like, you got to leave.
That's right.
She has the means to leave. A lot of people are so broke that they can't even
leave. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or their finances are completely tied up in whoever it is that's, the perpetrator of the abuse. Even if they're making their own money.
Yeah.
It's being controlled. And financial control is a big part of domestic abuse that a lot of people, I don't think, consider when they say, well, if she's getting hit that bad, why doesn't she just leave him? First of all, whatever. I don't know how you can be so insensitive to things like that.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, you're right. A lot of the times people don't leave because they don't have enough of a financial safety net to do so, especially when they have their own children. Like, it's different to go live in a homeless shelter by yourself than it is to live with your 3 kids in a women's
And there's
shelter.
a part like where they love them.
Yeah.
Like the only abuse I've ever suffered was my dad beat me when I was a kid. I still loved him.
Yeah.
Even though he done these crazy things, that are the only thing, because when stuff like that happens when you're a kid, all of that stuff sticks in your brain, and everything else that was good fades away after time.
Yeah.
And that's all you can vividly remember are those moments. And, oh, you're okay. We're still in line. Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
We're good. Totally fine.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. But yeah.
I don't use my guitar anymore, so I'm going to put it down.
Oh, sure. Yeah, go right ahead. But yeah, it's so sad and tragic. But
yeah, and I think a lot of that, I don't know if you can hear me. Wait a second.
I can good enough. Sure.
I don't think a lot of people realize how much our brain does to prevent us from having to deal with the trauma all at once.
Oh yeah.
Especially in adolescence and childhood. There are many instances that I've heard of people that are going to therapy to deal with a specific issue, and they find, all of these memories that have been suppressed through the treatment that they're doing, like memories that they don't even remember, and they think that very well could just be a figment of their imagination, start to pour forward. And it's because our brain does a really good job of preserving us and taking care of us in a way that, like you're talking about now as an adult, you only remember the bad things. And a lot of the time it's because when you're a kid, your brain is doing the active measure of preventing you from of dealing with it then. And then your brain is like, okay, it's been long enough now. You can deal with it now. And you're like, why am I having night terrors? Why am I having this crazy stuff happening in my life?
Well, you're so, like, you don't know what it is necessarily. And like, you're just trying to play with some Ninja Turtles, and all of a sudden you get hit with a full cup of change.
Yeah.
And, or you spill Kool-Aid down the stairs because you go to bring your dad something to drink while he's working, and then he comes in and beats the hell out of you because of what happened, and he doesn't even know why you did it.
Right.
All of that stuff just is there.
Yep.
And it's like, I don't even remember what he sounds like, but I remember that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it just sucks. It's like, I try to tell people, like, I get, listen, I understand the principle behind whipping your kids. Just calm down, take a breath, and kind of really think about it and what it's actually doing. Now, this was not like a little pat on the back. It was like, but at the same time, I made the decision of, like, I'm not going to raise my kid like that. That's not the norm.
Right.
It's often brought on to the next person. But
for me, I didn't know a lot about how things in my house growing up weren't normal until I was just around other families. And I think that's the other part of, you have to have context for it as you get older to kind of see, oh, like, so-and-so's family dynamic is not like that at all. And of course, there are things that you only see when the doors are closed and only the family's there. But there was enough information that I was given just from observing other families to kind of realize in some instances that this isn't necessarily normal. And I am not a parent, so I'm never ever gonna even as an educator, working with little kids and being around them all the time, I'm never going to pass judgment on somebody unless I know for sure that they really are abusing their kids. But in West Virginia, I think a lot of the times parents are being neglectful because they are doing how they grew up, and they just don't know that it's a neglectful situation because that's how they were raised and they turned out fine, but I would love to see from the outside, I would love to see more accountability just overall for kids and for adults. If you really did do something wrong on purpose, then we need to have a conversation about it. You don't need to get beat because of it, but I see right now in education, there's a lot of excuses that are made for people's kids when they misbehave. And there's a lot of excuses that are made for people that are in high positions of power within our political offices,
Sure, yeah.
And I would just like us as a nation to go back to holding people accountable for things without being mean to them.
2 + 2 is 4.
Right.
And sometimes it feel like it's 5.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, wait a minute. We all agree that
2 + 2
certain
is 4.
things. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's but it's a lot of times it's 5.
Right.
And I just
depending on who you talk to.
Yeah, that's the thing. And then I dive in like, well, I'm going to worry about me.
Yeah.
And what I can
And your
change
family,
and
and
feeding people and doing all I can. And
yeah.
God, it becomes a lot. But I do believe in humanity, and I think it's still there. We just got to give it a chance to breathe.
Playing this music and doing this dancing gives me a lot of hope for the future that I didn't have before.
I could imagine.
Because you just see people experiencing joy. You're like, oh yeah, this is what life is, intended to be. Is not that we're not supposed to suffer, because we are. Suffering teaches us things about ourselves and about the world. But that unbridled joy that just pours out of people in the sort of environments that I find myself in nowadays. I'm really glad that I'm growing up with it as a young adult so that it can shape the way that I view the rest of my life. And I'm not, 50 some years old picking up the guitar for the first time and coming to these camps and seeing it, because I'm hoping it's going to change the way that I view, and it already has changed the way that I view everything, being alive in general.
Oh, a good riff and a good melody can change your entire day.
Oh yeah.
You're like, I'm going to put on this Tool album and just listen to it because it's just so like oddly beautiful or whatever, fill in the blank with your artist.
Yeah. Or somebody inviting you into a jam, even though they know that you can't keep up. You know what I mean? Just the kindness of saying like, come sit here, come sit here. And they might not say this, but they might be saying, come sit and listen, but just being invited into an environment like that, or you're having a hard day, you woke up late and everything's going wrong, and you catch somebody and they're just so happy to be there and smiling, and you're like, oh, that's a good perspective to have right now. I need to fix my attitude a little bit.
What's driving people nuts is they started listening to podcasters instead of music. I mean, no offense, listen, I love y'all, but sometimes I gotta unplug and just dive into some notes.
Just music. Yeah.
Oh, or bowl music. Just something like raindrops.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? I'll just sit there and I'll sit and listen to raindrops for like 3 hours just to calm down what's going on.
There's music in nature. It's all woven in there.
Yeah. When did you learn guitar? How old were you?
I picked up the guitar when I first went to Augusta's Irish weekend. And so that would have been fall of 2022. So like 3.5 years. Mm-hmm. And I started playing keyboard for college, because you have to test on keyboard regardless of what instrument you play to a certain proficiency level. And so I took a couple semesters of lessons in piano, because I only sang. And like I said, I didn't read music when I went to college. So picking up an instrument wasn't something I was going to be able to teach myself to do at that time. I always had good ears, but I had nothing to put it towards. And so started playing keyboard it would be like 6.5 years ago now. And then guitar about 3.5 years now. And last April was the first time that I really felt confident sitting in a jam and being one of only a couple guitar players and knowing that I wasn't going to mess everything up. So
yeah,
I'm still very new to feeling. I'm not a good guitar player. I don't claim to be, but
sounds great to me.
Thank you. I mean, I'm just now at the point where it's fulfilling what it was supposed to fulfill for me, which is just giving me an instrument to sing along to.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And we got an a cappella song coming up, and you told me that you sang opera at one point. What is opera? What is the genre? Like, I mean, we know what it is, but there's more to it, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, at its root, it's a genre that came out of Italy, and that came out of only an a cappella singing tradition, because think pre-printing press, we didn't have ways to distribute written music. So opera was really one of the first industry big moments for when the printing press was coming out, because now we could read the music on the page to learn it. And so these prolific Italian and then eventually French and German, folks that were based in those Western European countries, but it's coming out of Italy, wanted to create a form of play and music combined together. And so opera is just a through storytelling mechanism through song on the stage, but it also has a lot of classical music in general, just has a lot of rules and a lot of unspoken rules, some that are spoken and some that are unspoken. And so I really loved in college singing Italian music because I was born with a cleft palate. And so I had a big hole from where my teeth line is behind my teeth line all the way back. Thankfully, it didn't mess up my teeth situation too much. But I had a cleft palate repair surgery when I believe I was 16 months old, and I still have hearing loss and I've had several ear surgeries over the years, including a complete right eardrum reconstruction in 2017. So I got a whole new eardrum out of that surgery.
Good Lord.
Yeah. So I always loved choral singing. And I think what I figured out when I was starting in college was the thing I loved about choral singing with a choir, was that the vowels were so open and pure, so that everybody was aligned, and the acoustics and the resonance sounded really good, because if your vowels don't line up, the frequencies mess with each other and it makes it sound not so great, know? And so I loved that about choral singing. And I figured out that those pure vowels are coming from Italian music, or not necessarily coming from, but I'll also translate to that. And so I really liked singing early Italian music, 1600s, 1700s music. And then as I got to be a better reader of music, my sophomore year, I started singing French music from the Romantic period. So this is like, opera is still happening, but it's changing into more orchestral, and it's becoming a bigger, like leading into the 19th century, It's very emotional. It's very, in German and French song from the Romantic area, there's a lot of description of scenery. And so you're setting up the scene, and then you have to wait until the end of the song, kind of like a ballad, to find out what is the real story that you're telling here. So it's like all of this fluff build up until my true love left me, and that's why I'm sitting at the river staring at my reflection, and I just loved French language and the way that the melodies were used in Romantic music. And so upon preparing to graduate, I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. My voice is suited for it. I know that I want to perform professionally if I can get away with it. And then I got some really good encouragement from some folks that said, you have a voice for this. Like, you've got the right attitude, you're going to be successful. And so when I said that I sing opera, really it was more of a blanket of singing classical music, not just from the classical period, but my intention before the pandemic happened was to get a graduate degree in opera. And so I was heading towards that path, probably going to be moving to the Northeast.
Wow.
To do that.
How do you warm up to sing? Like, is there any tenets on how you sing, or is it just normal singing? I mean,
no. In fact, the voice that I'm singing with that you heard on those last two songs is a completely different voice. Like all of it, think about from style to style, you have to manipulate your voice in a different way to fit that style, which is why whenever I was growing up, I never thought that I would sing stuff like this, because I just didn't have that voice. And I had to learn growing up having speech issues, and I always had a very nasally speaking voice. And now some of you are going to go back and be like, oh, that's why her voice sounds like that. But
I didn't notice.
Well, sweetie, I definitely sound congested all the time, and that has to do with that. But I always hated my talking voice, because as a kid, people would say like, why does your voice, like my peers would say, why does your voice sound like that? You know, I had a very frontal nasal sort of sound to my voice. And so I stayed away from music that connected to my talking voice, which is, I think I sound like I'm talking a lot of the time when I'm singing this music, you know, on a pitch,
Right.
but it sounds the way I talk,
Mhm.
you know, versus if I was going to sing some other thing from the 1700s, it doesn't sound the way that I talk, you know. And that was how I knew my voice until I graduated from college and was like, I want to be able to do other stuff. I always liked musical theater. I always liked choral music. I always liked that classical sound. And I always listened and appreciated the more modern, they call it commercial music genres like country, pop, rock.
Mhm.
And so I just kind of decided that I was fed up with only having one voice. And I started singing Heart, like Barracuda.
Oh, nice.
You know, and what's the other one that I really like of theirs? There's one that I use for karaoke, but Crazy on You. You know?
Do we want to do this? I kind of want to do this.
Yeah, I mean, like I'll just sing you a chorus of my rock voice, you know, and then I'll sing you a chorus of my classical voice.
Let's do it.
And then you can kind of hear the difference.
Reverb. You're good.
Yeah, sweet. Okay, so if I was gonna sing Heart, Crazy on You, you know, da na 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 na. I'm just kind of setting you up a little bit. That's what I'm talking about. So, if we still have time, you might still be mine. Every time I think about it, I wanna cry. Bombs to the devil, and the kids keep coming. The way to breathe easy, no time to be young. So if I was gonna sing that, you know, and I tell myself that I've been doing alright. Nothing left to do at night but go crazy on you. You know?
Wow.
So there's that voice, which I think it blends more into my musical theater stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like and if you watch people now, you know, you watch when I got into that high stuff, I scrunch up my nose. I'm creating enough space that it sounds thick, even though I'm in a lighter part of my voice. Na 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 na. And if you watch Bruno Mars and people like that, like they're doing that stuff all the time.
Right.
Yeah. And so versus, you know, the stuff that I was singing in college was like, what am I going to sing? Okay. Yeah. So I hate singing in German because the consonants are really hard for me. But that's where my brain is going. So
I have the same problem. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said it.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say maybe that's what's coming into my head, but maybe I can find something else as well.
Oh, I'm down. Whatever.
Okay, let me see. Gib mir die Hand, dass ich sie heimlich drücke. Und wenn man sieht, mir ist es einerlei. Gib mir nur einen deiner Sassenblöcke, wie ein Stimmei, das Glück und duftet heute jedem Grabe. Dein Tag im Jahr ist ja dem Toten frei. Komm und mein Herz, dass ich sing habe, wie ein Stimmei, wie ein Stimmei. Very different voices.
Wow. That is insane.
Thanks. And then you heard what I'm doing now earlier, you know, like my two bands that I'm in are all traditional music, old time, country sort of stuff. So I did very much a 180. You know, I went from singing like, Oh mio bambino caro, da 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 da. You know,
I know that song.
Yeah. I was gonna say you probably know that one a little bit. Yeah, that's one of the ones that everybody knows. Yeah. So I went from singing in that church voice, as some people in traditional music call it now. And people were like, you got to figure that out. Like, how are you going to get out of that voice? And so I really just listened to the people that I met whenever I was in Elkins, people like Emily Miller and her mother, Val Mandel, and the way that they approached it. And I had to figure out how to sing in a completely different way from the way that I'd been singing forever, you know? And so I got there via rock because it opened up that chestier voice. And I got to experiment with lightening it up and it not being so heavy all the time. You know, now I can sing that stuff all the time. But when I first started, the muscles involved to sing in your chest voice, that thick voice versus your head voice, well, everything's working in a different way. The vibrations happening faster, slower. The muscles that are engaged are different. And so I just didn't have experience. It's like learning how to sing for the first time, you know?
Sure. I would, so I was in a metal band and I would blow my voice out in like 2 songs. Why does that happen?
Because there's too much friction happening on the vocal folds. Normally you're pressing too much air through. So think about it like, I saw somebody do this with, they attached, some strands of paper to a, hair dryer. And it's just, you know, you don't need that much air to get the blades of paper to move, you know? And so overblowing, it's called hyperphonating. Phonating too much, you know? And so that's either too thick, meaning too heavy, like, you know, you're using too much force or too much air. And oftentimes those are the things that contribute to people not feeling great. So I teach voice lessons and my goal is always to get people to be able to sing whatever they want with the same foundation, which I've figured out by trial and error through my own voice, you know. But there's one exercise that I have everybody do regardless of what their goals are, and that's sing a siren, like a police siren, like from a vocal fry all the way down.
Wow.
And if you watch me do that,
right,
like my jaw isn't moving, you know, my tongue isn't moving. Everything is staying in a neutral position. So that should be the number one goal for that. And then after that, if your issue is that you're not getting enough sound, you know, you're singing and singing and singing and you still have this hiss, then the next goal is to thicken up your voice in some way. So I might have you do like, almost like clearing your throat, because that gets the vocal folds to come together. And if your issue is that they're not coming together all the way, that might be my first thing that I have you do. If you're the opposite and you're blowing out your voice all the time, I might give you an exercise like puffy cheeks. Because you can't over engage when the back pressure is coming from the lips rather than being managed here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't matter if I'm in chest voice or in head voice. Is a great exercise to use. And do that on the siren. Moving in and out of head and chest voice.
I feel like I sat in a room and just do all these voices anyway, and I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Cool. I mean, really, if you use your voice, if you're a teacher or, you know, you're doing a podcast or you're talking, requires just as much voice warm up as singing does. In fact, I don't get tired from singing. I get tired from talking. My voice gets fatigued by talking. And that's because, as you can hear, like nowadays, I speak in a lower register. So that means I've got thicker vocal fold movement happening on my day-to-day talking. Right. And now I'm singing with a thicker voice all the time. So I'm using the same muscles all the time. And it's led to me having fatigue in my voice, in my singing for the very first time in my entire life. And it's because before I was using my chest voice to talk and my head voice to sing.
That's fun. There's so much to it. How do people like... You'll hear music stars that have really deep voices. And then you'll hear like Tyler Childers or someone do his thing. Who's the guy I'm thinking of? There's a Colton. I can't remember. There's a folk country singer that has like a beyond bassy voice.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you get there. Do they just kind of figure out what works for them and what they can do for 3 hours?
Yeah, I was going to say the number one goal should always be longevity.
Yeah.
Because if you can't sing like that for longer than 20 minutes, then that's probably not going to be where you need to end up ultimately, you know? So, and some people's voices are just bigger. People's voices are smaller. I mean, in overall like volume size, but also in, you know, we all have our different ranges based on our genetics and how big we are, because your voice, your thickness of your vocal folds controls a lot of what your range is. Also your voice is not just, it's created within the air moving through the vocal folds, right? That's where the source of it is. But that all the other stuff that I do when I'm switching from genre to genre is happening inside to the way that it moves out of my mouth, not from necessarily from the creation of the voice. So I would say if your goal is to learn how to sing anything, you should figure out what feels the most natural to you, and you can do it for a long time. But this guy that you're talking about probably just has a naturally low voice and has had to figure out how to keep it healthy and clean.
He's a real young guy. I can't think of his name. Daggone it. Colton. I'm gonna find it.
Gotcha.
Colton music.
But it's also why you listen to people sing, cover a song, and the covers are so different.
Right.
It's not just their musical taste, it's their voice, and the way that, and one of the things that we do in my car whenever we're on long road trips is I become the radio after we're done listening to stuff. And my husband will just say like country radio, and I'll sing like something in a country voice, and then he'll be like pop radio, and I'll switch and sing it. And that's just fun for both of us to kind of play around a little bit with each other, but also to break up the monotony of a long car ride, And he'll say jazz radio, and his voice will change whenever he's the announcer. He's like, now for some smooth jazz, And we both just mess around in that way. But I didn't gig for a long time because I couldn't figure out what my sound was. And nowadays, I feel like I figured out I can do this traditional stuff, and it feels good, and it sounds good, and people are receptive to it. But I'm still missing a part of my other voice when I'm using it, and so that's my journey that I'm going to be on for however many years,
I see it as like you have all these great things to choose from. How can I choose just one?
I don't. Yeah, I don't want to. And so, like I said, I've declined a lot of gigs, especially, prior to 2025. I said 2025 was going to be my year where I got over myself and got out there, and I did. But when you care about your art as much as I do, I just wanted to make sure that I was giving the audience a good experience and not just making myself happy by switching from genre to genre every 3 songs or whatever. And some of the gigs I was doing felt like a little bit of a whiplash for my audiences, where I was like singing some Carole King, and then I move into, some pop from the 90s. And, it just, there was no through line. And I got some advice from somebody who I respected who said, you should be able to sing whatever you want and it still sound like you, and it not sound like you're imitating somebody else. And imitation was always the way that I got all of these voices. I figured out what is it that they're doing inside of their mouth to make that happen. What is quintessential to the genre? What is it going to be missing if I sing it this way versus this way, Yeah. And so now like I said, I'm on the journey of, I feel like I know more of what I want to make nowadays. And my next thing that I want to make, I released an EP in December of 2025 that was all traditional songs, and things like 16 tons, I call it music for you and your peepaw, like you.
Perfect.
You and your grandpa should be able to sit down and enjoy the 5 tracks on that record. But now I'm at the age where all my friends are having kids. All my friends are having babies. All of them, literally almost all of them. And so I'm going to record a lullaby record this summer.
Nice.
Because I've got good friends and I want them to be able to have something from me.
Do a murder ballad lullaby album. Talk about fun.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, come on. Talk about a niche.
Murder, children. Learn about murder.
But we beat the cuss words.
Right.
Coulter Wall is who I was thinking.
I'm not familiar with him.
Okay, cool. Well, look, he's got a really unique voice. And another thing, too, I used to mimic voices when I was a surface miner on the CB radio, and I always loved doing that because people were so easy to fool.
Yeah.
And I would make people like pull their equipment certain places thinking I was the fuel guy and all these different things. But I just relate to it. I can't sing for crap, but I can relate to it because I can do voices.
Yeah,
somewhat.
and I can't do impressions.
Yeah.
Which is funny. Like I have a Mickey Mouse one that I use, and I talk about the Mickey Mouse voice because it's like that light falsetto kind of voice,
right,
where you get up in your high. And so I talk about that a lot with young boys who want to start singing down low before their voices change because they want to be more masculine, That's what they think is masculine, And so I talk about, okay, but now do it in your Mickey Mouse voice, and I can actually do the bit, but I'm not trying to get you sued. But either way, I can't do impressions.
Sure, yeah.
I've just always been able to figure out, like, listening to that person's voice, where's their tongue? Like, what are they doing with their jaw? Whatever. And it makes me a good voice teacher. You know, I'm tooting my own horn to say that I'm really good at figuring out what a client needs out of our lessons together. But it's because the very first time I listened to them, I'm like, these are the 3 things I need to fix.
I feel like you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
I agree.
There's several people that come in here sometimes, and I'm like, yeah, this person is doing exactly what the good Lord wanted her to do.
Right. I completely agree, especially since I started singing the trad music. Like, it's given me a West Virginia identity that I didn't have before, because North Central West Virginia can be very like, we're not Southern West Virginia, we're not they other them, and so
sure.
Growing up around that, it's kind of like subtle sorts of things that happen, but then somebody comes in with a Southern accent and everybody looks at each other with their eyes big and wide like that, and it's like they do the same thing that other people do to us, just on the inside of Appalachia versus on the outside. And
right.
So I always felt disconnected from the state, except through 4-H camp. I went to 4-H camp, and that made me proud to be a West Virginian. And that's also where I harmonized for the first time, and learned how to harmonize with other singers. And
heck yeah.
Got encouraged by older kids at camp to sing. They were like, you should do the talent show or whatever. Because I'd be singing in the shower or whatever. And I was 10 years old, and some 15-year-old was like, you have a really good voice, and that meant a lot to me at the time, getting to be with kids that were older than me who also liked what I was doing versus my peers at school that, I was just like a choir nerd kind of kid, Yeah. And so anyhow, I definitely feel like all of the things that I wanted for myself before I left for college and was planning what my future was going to be, it was a huge U-turn. And it was very, very scary for me at first, but that it was very much God leading me in the path I was supposed to go down, because now, since 2026 has started, I already have all these gigs booked throughout the year. I'm being asked to come on to podcasts and talk about my music and stuff like that. And all of those things are things I did not experience prior to now, but they're fulfilling what I wanted as a little girl.
Yeah.
Always wanting to sing for people and that sort of thing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate being a part of it. We do have an a cappella song.
Yeah.
Kind of set this up.
Yeah. What is this? A shape note singing song, which shape note singing comes from England and traveled through the northeastern area of the United States, because when people were immigrating from the Mayflower, we're talking about Puritan English sort of things. And they created this note system as an alternative to do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, solfege, which we considered to be the way of reading music in the Western world. To instead, they have a fa-based system. So it's fa, sol, la, mi, fa. And that means that the 2 places where there are half steps in the scale are marked by the same movement of the same words. So it was trying to make reading easier. And they had these books that were all religious texts that you sing really loud and really boisterously. And then through migration and things like that, now it's a really big thing in the South, shape note singing is. So the sopranos, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman, sopranos, if you want to sing the lead, you sit on that side. Altos, tenors, and basses all sit in a big square. And there's somebody who is the leader, and they beat out the beat like this with their hand like this. I'm not kidding. This is exactly what they do, like that. And everybody sings super loud. And it's a really, really amazing sort of experience to be a part of. I've done some shape note singing here and there, but that's where this song comes from, is from the shape note singing tradition. And I heard it first from Abigail Washburn, who is married to Bela Fleck, and the 2 of them are both incredible trad banjo players. And she's also a really great singer and just a really cool person. She's come to Augusta and taught, so I met her through that. But she has this recorded with her husband, and I talked to her about it a little bit because I knew I wanted to record it the summer that I met her. And she said that Doc Watson's estate came after her and said that she needed to pay them money. And it wasn't a Doc Watson song. It was the version that she is singing. They say that it's his version of it. And so they wanted some royalties from what she was going to make.
Oh, gotcha.
And she won that court case. So I can sing it and not worry about anybody coming after me.
Let's go.
So it's called And Am I Born to Die? And there's several verses that come in the shape note singing tradition. I cut it down to only 3 verses for my recording, and then I wrote the 4th verse that I added on to the end.
Okay. All right. And you are ready. Take it away.
And am I born to die, to lay this body down, and must my trembling spirit fly into a world unknown, a land of deepest shade, unpierced by human thought, the dreary regions of the dead, where all things are forgot. When soon from earth I go, what will become of me? Eternal happiness or woe? What will my portion be when the trumpet sounds its call? I from my grave shall rise when the Lord Almighty calls my soul. I'll ascend into the sky.
Gorgeous.
Thanks.
That was awesome.
That song is really old.
Oh, it sounds like it. I
Yeah.
just, golly.
Yeah, we're talking about like 1400s maybe.
Wow.
I mean,
Okay, so
like
old.
The text is really, really old. Yeah, I mean, it might be more like 1500s.
Wow.
But either way, still very, very old. It has it's a lot of versions. The version that Doc Watson plays, he plays the fiddle part, the melody on fiddle as well. It's just.
And what's the meaning behind the song exactly?
I think just that we're all gonna die.
Perfect.
And that, yeah, I mean, and that, are we here just to die? Like, is the life that we live here done when we die? You know, is this all that there is, or is there something far beyond death? And I like it. Growing up Baptist, Southern Baptist, I was always told, like, there's one way to read the scripture, you know, that's it. There's no other way.
Red letter Christian boys.
Right. And so, and my husband grew up Catholic. And so it's really funny, both of us coming in from very serious sorts of traditions into now we attend a Presbyterian church. And the reason we do that is because they encourage questioning. And that's what I really like about this song is, you know, what's going to become of me? Like, you don't really know. This person is dealing with their inevitable death. You know, who knows how old the person was when they wrote the lyrics of the song, but these people sing it like, and am I born to die? You know what I mean? Like, it's very much just like we're all in this experience of all of us are going to die, and none of us know where we're going to go at the end of it. And so the last verse is my personal take on it. You know, if we really are going to rot, our bodies are going to come from the graves. You know, people interpret rapture all different kinds of ways and all that. You know, when the trumpet sounds its call, I from my grave will rise. maybe not my body, but my soul, when the Lord Almighty calls my soul, I'll ascend into the sky. So that's the verse that I added.
I love it. You comfortable enough to answer that question? I like asking this question usually on paranormal shows, but where do you think we go when we die?
From my faith, I believe that there is something both in both directions of where we could go. I don't think it's as cut and dry as some people see it. I think that there are a lot of bad people who, and in the end of their life, are going to get the opportunity to answer for what they've done. And who knows, they might end up going to heaven, Like, it's not my place to judge what you've done. I've done a lot of bad things too, but I know that regardless of when it happens, right when you die, or whether our body is in holding, and our soul is in holding, waiting for the second coming of Christ, that there comes a time, and some people believe that however you are when you die determines where you're going to go. You've either acknowledged that you've done wrongdoing, and you are remorseful, and that you believe in, Jesus being the Son of God, and you die, and then you go to heaven immediately. And that's what we hear the most often, and there's other people that believe that our souls are just in this path of waiting until Christ comes back and takes all of the believers. But then that doesn't leave a lot of certainty about when the judgment is going to happen, because I do believe we're all going to be judged. And so you better get right.
Get right or get left.
Get right, yeah. Get right or get left, not saying it like you people better get right, but we people better get right, with God. Because I believe that you are going to go to the place that you deserve, one way or another. And I'm not the one that determines that. And there's a lot of people that I know where I would send them to, just based on the way that they would treat me, but it's not my decision to make. I think it's within us to decide, if it really says that the rocks cry out to God, that there really is the ability for even non-living creatures to praise God in their own way, if you are too proud of yourself that whenever that things are revealed to you, and if that is the way that it's going to happen, and you give an opportunity to speak on your judgment, and you are not completely like awe-inspired by this creator of all things that you meet whenever you get there, and you can't say, I've done this. These are all the things I've done. There are so many things that I've done that I don't even remember. Mm-hmm. And I'm asking now for you to forgive me. I believe that there is a turning point after death, and not just when you die, you go where you're going to go.
You think you get an option?
I think you get a choice.
Ooh.
Just because.
I like that.
No, just because there are so many people that I know that, including in my own family, that are so proud that I can't imagine them. Even if it was this like supernatural sort of experience where it's like, you, Olivia and Santa Perske, decide for yourself now. Are you going to follow me, or are you going to die with your sin? Because the wage of sin is death is another quote I could give,
Sure, yeah.
So I do believe in Jesus as the Son of God, and I prescribe to that ideology with knowing that really, truly, what God wants out of all of us is to be in relationship, to have a relationship, and to want him to be in our lives, and not just there lurking, waiting for us to invite him into our lives, So, if you disagree with me, that's fine. There's probably a lot of other people that are Christians that disagree with me, and that's also fine.
Oh, I'm not a disagree. I love hearing people's thoughts on it because it's so intriguing to me. And to me, the biggest evidence of there being something more are gifts given to people like you have. And I just, there's something to all this because I get thinking about the universe and like it's infinite and all these things.
Yeah.
So I'm agnostic, which is, I'm just constantly searching and learning.
Yeah.
And I still don't.
You think there's something out there, but you don't know what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Which,
I mean, I pretty much know there's something.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
yeah.
In the same way that I believe in the light, I believe in the dark, and I don't mess around with stuff for that reason. The Creepalachia sort of idea of there are things out there, there are, and there's evil that people can do, but there's also supernatural sort of evil or not entities that exist, I think, without our plane. And I all kinds of reactions when I say this kind of stuff to people, because I'm not have a superficial kind of conversation kind of person, I get to the meat pretty fast.
No, I love it. I love it.
And so I will say things like, I believe that there are spirits among us right now, coming from, weaving their way in and out of the earth,
I agree.
From either side, right?
Right.
And some of them are ill-intended and some of them are not. And, that also brings me to like, if we are waiting for Christ to come back, what do our souls do in the meantime? Are we like frozen like Han Solo in the, like just waiting and not in control of it? Or do we have the ability to intercede on behalf of our loved ones who are still alive and show them that we're there? I don't know, and I don't claim to know, but I do know that my intuition is really good. And if I meet somebody and I don't feel good about them, normally there's something that's going to transpire that's related to that. And I believe that about things that are not alive as well. Like I can walk into a room and feel something there.
So, all right, this podcast just turned into 3 hours. Have you had a spiritual experience like that you remember vividly?
Yeah, I've definitely had a experience that is a part of my faith journey that I would feel comfortable talking about. Yeah. Whenever I was 14 years old, I was dating this guy who was a couple years older than me. And by dating, I mean, we were just sneaking around, and he was way too old to be talking to me. And it ended up poorly. It ended up with me being assaulted by this guy.
Goodness
and
gracious.
Which is, I pick the songs I pick for a reason, there are, if it's not my story to tell, I don't want to tell it, but
sure.
That was, I didn't tell anybody. I held on to it all by myself as a 14-year-old girl. And I was a really high achieving student and, was like student council, always got straight A's, and nobody knew because I didn't let anybody know that there was something going on with me. But I was going into my freshman year of high school when all of this happened. It was like, August. I know the date, around that time of the year, I always feel it. Because it was just such an awful time for me.
Sure.
And so I wanted to start on the volleyball team. That was my goal going in. I wanted to earn accolades that hid from my internal suffering, so, and that's who I am anyway. Mm-hmm. But I was running around the track at my high school by myself, conditioning before the conditioning started. There was conditioning at like 10 o'clock in the morning, and I went to run the track at 9:15 so that I could run a little bit and be warm because I wanted to prove to the coach that I was like your go-getter, freshman starter kind of person, So I was running around and suppressing all of these emotions because I couldn't let them out. I didn't have any way to deal with it, I just couldn't. And I didn't trust anybody enough to tell them. And if I told my parents, they would know that I'd been sneaking out of my house almost every night with this guy, like all of this sort of, it would implicate me in a bigger thing. And that's all that I was worried about at the time is my parents looking at me differently in more ways than one.
Sure, you're 14.
Right. And so anyhow, I was running around the track and it was almost like I just got all the grief just hit me at once. In a way that I hadn't experienced yet because I was still on the like, did that really happen to me? Or am I misinterpreting something sort of, that was where my brain was still. And it wasn't really until I was 19 and in college that I really put my foot down and said, no, I was raped. That happened to me. That wasn't me remembering things wrong, and I was not responsible for it. And it wasn't until years after that when I was in therapy that I realized all the shame I'd been holding on to. So this has been like a multi-tiered level of me getting through it. So back to the story. Mm-hmm. Running around the track, I get hit with my grief all at once. And I fall to my knees and I just say like, God, how could you let this happen to me? Like, God, why? Well, in the same way that Jesus said when he was crucified, not comparing myself, but God, why have you forsaken me? Why have you left me to deal with this? Why? Mm-hmm. And it's also the first time that I talked to God about it. I didn't just like try to hide it and keep it within my body. And as soon as I fell onto the ground and I was just weeping, I was just like, it just really hit me all at once. And I was pouring tears down my face and just like looking up at the sky like this. And the rain poured on me. I mean, it was as soon as I started as soon as the tears started to flow, it was a downpour of rain. And it lasted until I was ready to be done, until I had no tears left, Mm-hmm. And I stood up and I was like, well, I'm covered in water. I don't have a change of clothes. I better start walking my way over there and figure out what I'm going to do for practice that starts in 15 minutes, you know? And so I started moving my way towards there. And it was just as soon as that rain, it was like as soon as I was done crying, that rain stopped. And it was that pour down, aggressive, hurts your skin when it hits you kind of rain.
Yeah.
I mean, in 15 seconds, it was there and it was gone. And it made me 30 overall. And I stood up and I started walking back because the track was on the complete other side and I had to walk past the parking lot to get to my school. So I was like, okay, I got to gather my thoughts and get myself together. And I felt in that moment like that was weird, you know, like that felt like God was crying for me, you know, like that felt like that was for me in that moment that I needed that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then it wasn't, as soon as I made that thought of acknowledgement, like that wasn't a random thing that just happened to me. A monarch butterfly came and landed on me as I was walking back to my class and stayed with until I was walking back to school. And it stayed with me until I was about to go into the gym. Like, so that was a football field away that a butterfly was like on my arm all the way until I got back to where I was going for practice.
Yeah.
And it was those two things in a row that were just so happenstance, sort of, you know,
something different.
It was like, I can't deny the presence of God in my life ever again, you know? And it was when I humbled myself enough to say, well, I mean, I was questioning. I was very much like, how dare you let this happen to me, you know? But it wasn't until I humbled myself enough to say, like, I can't deal with this on my own, that I was able to, that God showed me that he was there with me, you know? And so that's always been a big part of my testimony and a story that I tell.
That's obviously I wish you didn't go through it, but I'm the beautifuln's of that scene after, you know, I could imagine how much that would impact you. Yeah.
And I still didn't tell anybody, you know, until after I graduated high school.
Right.
So that was enough for me in that moment to know that I wasn't alone, even though I decided that I wasn't going to tell anybody and that, you know, I really was alone, that I wasn't alone overall. Sure. And I needed it. I probably would have ended up really struggling in school. In fact, my junior year of high school, I started getting these migraines that were debilitating and I couldn't go to class for the beginning of the day because I would wake up and my head was pounding and I got auras. So I would like have these like bubbles sort of thing, like light bulb things that would move around in my vision. And so it wasn't safe for me to drive and all that. So I started having these really bad migraines and I now believe that led to me having seizures that went until I started college. And that was the reason that I went to the college that I went to, is because I didn't want to be away from my parents because I'd had health issues for the first time in my life, really. Mm-hmm. And so I believe it was suppressed trauma that led to all that because there was no reason for it.
Sure, yeah.
There was never any there was never any diagnosis. I was on anti-seizure, anti-migraine meds for a while that I stopped taking probably around the time that I was 19 or so. But I think it was because I was dealing with so much emotional distress that my body was trying to.
Oh yeah, I think stress and trauma really does have health effects.
Oh yeah,
I mean, and it manifests things.
Yeah, and I didn't believe that before then.
Yeah,
you know, I didn't think that my emotional state affected my body at all. You know, and so when I went to college and those realizations started to hit me that, you know, how much I had been holding on to and how I was done being sick and I didn't want to be this frail, you know, thing anymore. It all coincided. You know, I started telling people about what happened to me, people that I trusted, and I didn't have those health issues anymore. I went from seizing like once a month, you know, it wasn't frequent. But they were grand mal seizures that were like eyes rolled in the back of the head, convulsing on the floor, sort of crazy looking experiences. And I very much do think that my body was dealing with my stress.
And it's calmed down?
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, I don't take any meds anymore or anything like that. And I tell people about what happened to me now. It's not a source of shame for me, and it was for a really long time, even though I had dealt with it, I thought, mentally. My body hadn't dealt with it yet. You know, when I first started living with my husband before we got married, because my mom said to me one time, she was like, you don't really know somebody unless you live with them.
It's true.
And my parents are very, very religious people. And so I was like, her saying that to me is her kind of giving me permission to figure that out. because she knew how much I cared for Tyler and that I wanted to marry him. And so it's true, we didn't really know each other as well as we thought we did when we started living together. But the other thing is that I was having reoccurring nightmares in my sleep of my trauma, like of the actual scenario. And I didn't know. I didn't know that. I knew I was exhausted all the time. Mm-hmm. And I didn't feel like I ever slept. But I would go to bed and have night terrors where I was reliving what had happened to me and didn't know. And he was like, you scream in your sleep? He was like, do you know?
He started questioning like, I don't know.
I know, for real. Thank God he stayed with me and we're married, and he's stuck with me now. We've been together almost 10 years.
That's great.
But him telling me that was also a big thing, because I was like, oh, I actually do need therapy. Like I haven't dealt with this like I thought I did.
Sure.
I thought that I was past it. Not that I'll ever be past it, because it's one of those things that changes you forever. But
I'm glad you've made it. Yeah.
And I'm glad that he told me so that I could actually get like treatment that I needed, because I thought like, I'm doing fine. I'm getting A's in school still, like I'm not dropping any of my responsibilities or anything, but my lack of sleep, restful sleep, stayed with me until I actually did EMDR, which is that stuff where you're kind of like in a trance state and you're watching the ball bounce, or in my instance, it was vibration that I had like 2 sensors that would vibrate back and forth, and it simulates bilateral stimulation of the brain,
right,
which allows you to process things that have happened to you in a way that in a safe environment. And so I processed a bad car wreck that I was in, and my abuse, and I started after that. It was it wasn't long enough after that to where I knew it was connected.
Sure,
you know what I mean? Like I felt like, oh, I can actually like sleep through the night. Not that I don't have a night terror here and there every once in a while, especially if I'm in an unfamiliar environment. If I'm staying at somebody's house that I've never stayed at before and I don't know what to expect, like my nervous system goes on to a kick. And
you get sleep paralysis?
I do.
Oh.
I see figures.
Nice.
Like big black figures in my sleep.
The guy in the hat, have you seen him or no?
I don't know. I've
heard a lot of people seeing a guy with a hat.
Yeah, he has like a brim on his hat. I don't, not distinctively enough, but I also, before all of this happened, whenever I was in 4th grade, I had a year where almost every night I had a recurring nightmare that our house burned down. Mm-hmm. So nightmares have always been like a part of my life. It's not like I just started having them then, but I would have a dream about our house burning down, and my brother was in the room across the hall from me, my little brother that's 8 years younger, and it was too hot that I couldn't get to him, and that was the nightmare. I just couldn't get to him, and it was
realistic
awful.
Ones.
Yeah, really super realistic. Not like this guy showed up and asked me if I wanted to go to the zoo, and then I ended up on a steamboat, or whatever. It's never anything cool like that. It's always like, these are real life scenarios that could really happen to you that are super, super scary, and you have to deal with them in sleep,
Yeah.
But I'm getting restful sleep now for the first time in my adult life, and it's made a big difference in everything, as you can imagine.
Thank goodness. Well, this has been so much fun. How can people follow your journey?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at my name, Olivia, Olivia, Insana, my maiden name, Insani, surprise, Perske, Perske. So one big long name, at Olivia Insana Perske on Instagram. That's the only social media that I kind of show what I'm doing musically on, because I don't add people I don't know on Facebook. So people get to see that kind of stuff. I also have an EP that I recorded with my good buddy Isaac Vyers out of Morgantown, that is on Apple Music and on Spotify and on YouTube, and it's called When the Fog Rolls In. It's all those old Appalachian based songs with that similar vibes to what you heard today. And those are the ways to follow me. Also, if you want to meet me in real life, coming to an Augusta Heritage Center event is the surest way that you can guarantee that we're going to get connected, because in the month of July, I'm going to be a student for 2 out of their 5 weeks of programming, and I'm going to be a volunteer for the other 3 weeks. So if you come to Augusta in downtown West Virginia to take a music or dance camp class this summer, you'll definitely meet me in some capacity there. And I will be the one that is grinning from ear to ear on the dance floor. That will be me.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so fun. All right, last hypothetical question.
Sure.
Everyone, this community's on an island. They've never heard of any religion, and they all take care of each other and live this beautiful life of helping and being humble, and then they die. What happens to those people?
They move into a different plane of existence of some kind. I don't think we're done when we die.
You don't think so?
No, I don't. I think that everything that is so complex about the way that we are tied to nature, like, if you look at our lungs and then you look at a tree and you know, the bark and, all that kind of stuff. I feel like creation, regardless of who you believe is created by, is too in depth and too interwoven among nature and us as humans, that there has to be something after this place, because it's just all so divinely interwoven and created and tied together that I'm not going to believe it if I die and there's nothing there. I'm going to think that I'm just in holding, waiting for something else to go on. Because, like I said, in my own everyday life, I acknowledge the existence of good and dark entities. And so what are those people do? Like, what are those things from? In my opinion, some other plane of existence that can either like layer over us, thinking about like layers of film on a stage light, yellow film, put a blue film on top, it becomes green. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
They all exist. The yellow film and the blue film exist apart from one another, but they also exist at the same time to make green.
They make something else. Yeah.
To make something else. So, yeah.
I like it. Mm-hmm. You ever saw Ghost?
The movie?
A Ghost.
Oh. No.
Okay, me either.
I've heard things that have led me to believe that something otherworldly was more. I feel like I've experienced that extra terrestrial or supernatural thing more so through sound and feeling than actual sight.
That's all I've done. I had one time at Trans-Allegheny where I'm like, okay, that's different.
Somebody's here.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh, yeah. Somebody, multiple people probably.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right.
Sweet.
Well, thank you, Olivia.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
Yeah, you too.
Yep. Everyone out there, be sure to like this video, subscribe to Creepalachia on YouTube if you haven't. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, take a minute and leave a review. That'll really help the show be found. And we are on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. You can follow the show there. And everyone else, always remember, above all else, long live Appalachia.
That's right.